We're good.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Art Forum SF, co-sponsored by the South Asian Departments of UC Santa Cruz, Berkeley, and Stanford University, we welcome you all to SALA 2023. The topic for this session is intersection of AI and art, with our guest speakers Nikhil and Madhu Budami, who are in conversation with Zara Chital today. Just a few house rules before we begin our session. Please put your phones on silent and no flash photography or recording. So with that, let's give our panelists a big round of applause.
Thank you for being here on a hot Saturday, so I hope that is worth of your time. So we have a number of questions that we want to answer as the panel topics. But we are going to have a 15-minute Q&A at the end of the session, so we will offer you your thoughts, your questions, and try to answer them. Maybe we'll start with the introductions. I'm Zehra. I'm the co-founder of a startup, an AI startup. We do creation, deployment, and maintenance of AI solutions much easier for everyone, not just data scientists, but also business users, so that everybody has access to AI and they can create it and they can also make it better. I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves. But before we do that, because a part of the introduction contains AI and generative AI, I want to ask a question to all of you. Are you using AI right now in your daily life? Okay. About like 40%, okay? Are you an artist who's using AI? All right, 1, 2, can I see hands one more time? All right, 1, 2, 3, perfect. Are you an artist who is not using AI? Okay, all right, thank you so much. So we have 3 artists who are using AI, 3 who are not using AI, but most of you are using AI. 40% are using AI. So I wanted to start with what AI is, right? So because I used to be a professor and this is a chance to do just 5-minute version of a class. So there is data. Data is basically everything that is recorded about what is being done. Think of it like that. And then there are rule-based systems where you look at the data and then you say, you have a conclusion based on the output of the rule-based system. So the rule-based system, for example, could say, if a person is wearing, well, it's just difficult to give an example. So maybe the rule-based system could say if a person is sitting on this side of the room, then that person is a panelist. If the person sits on that side of the room, then that person is not a panelist. And then, obviously, if one of you guys come here, then the rule-based system will say, oh, this person is a panelist too, but that person is not. So what we have done as humans, we have actually augmented the rule-based systems. Rule-based systems gave us something, and then we processed what the rule-based system gave us so that we could actually make things right. Like where rule-based systems did not work, as humans, we augmented the rule-based system. Then AI came. What AI does is it looks at us, our behavior, and then it can learn from what we do. It doesn't have to be written as a rule. Those things that AI learn can change based on the new data. So it just opens up a lot of new things about what can be done based on what's happening in an environment. It's much more flexible than a rule-based system, and it can actually adapt itself to change. And then there's generative AI. The AI systems that we currently used were task-specific. We did things like, is the person sitting on top of, is the person a panelist or not? Should I buy this product or not? Is this a profitable customer or not? So we had these questions and answers that were given by the models. Now, generative AI allows us to ask any question. So AI used to answer one question at a time. Generative AI, just like a human, could almost answer questions. And it's amazing, I'm sure when you experience ChatGPT or other systems, I'm sure I was amazed the first time I used it, and I'm sure you were amazed too. But there are gaps, and we'll talk about those gaps. So after that introduction, can I ask Madhu and Nikhil to introduce yourselves?
Thank you, Zara. My name is Madhu Vidali. I'm the CEO and founder of Faro. It's a generative AI startup based in Palo Alto. We're focused on using AI to help marketing companies who want to create content at scale. So if you've used, I saw the hands go up earlier, people said they were not using AI. Actually, all of you are using AI. You don't know that you're using AI because the companies are doing it on your behalf. So what we are helping companies do is to create content at scale, and that actually has lots of implications, which we'll get into. But the core idea is that how do you engage customers without you using a ChatGPT type interface? We are not asking questions, but the AI interprets or is going to think on your behalf and create content for you in advance to further a marketing objective, like buy a product or click on an ad or whatever. So that's what our company does.
Hi, I'm Nikhil, co-founder and CEO of CloudChef. We teach computers and robots how to cook food. And the idea is that we can use these robots to then give consumers anywhere in the world access to their best dishes, to their favorite dishes from anywhere else in the world. So sitting in Palo Alto or Menlo Park here, we should be able to eat from our favorite restaurants in India, in Paris, in New York. And on the other hand, we help chefs and restaurateurs anywhere in the world scale up like musicians today. So in the same way that you can record and play back audio and video, you cannot record and play back taste today. Essentially, that's what we are helping enable. We've been at it for the last 4 years. We are a few million recipes in, and we support about 80% of the world's cooking so far by this method, and we are able to cook food more accurately than Michelin star chefs. That's basically what CloudChef is after.
All right, thank you so much. And when I heard about these two companies, I was really excited. And there are obviously things that you are introducing that are beyond what's happening today. So we are used to seeing recipes, and we are used to looking for recipes ourselves. But creating a recipe as good as a Michelin star, or creating content which will be suitable for me as a customer. These are really groundbreaking in terms of the usual applications that we have seen so far. So we were discussing, among ourselves, what should we talk about? And we realized that people see AI as an opportunity, but most people see AI also as a threat. So I would like to ask again, a show of hands, who is worried about AI systems hurting us as humans? Okay. And who see it as an opportunity for us? All right. Okay. Yes. So we decided that it's an opportunity, but also it has things that we need to worry about as well, and we divide it up into. Okay, that works better. Okay, thank you so much. All right. Okay, maybe does this work better? Okay, I hear myself so loud. I'm like, am I like deafening my audience? Okay, so we decided to look into, instead of the opportunities, there are obviously a lot of opportunities, and we can talk about them if there is time. We wanted to talk about the threats posed by AI, and we decided to group them under 3 different things. One of them is a trust issue. The other one is like the threat brought by AI, and the other one is, are we replacing humans? Especially when it comes to art, it becomes a lot more sensitive than like replacing maybe data scientists or engineers. So I wanted to ask, both of you, if you could talk about your startup or your experiences so far, but you could also talk about your general experiences. why should I trust your AI system or your AI system? What are the issues that could come up? And then in general, what do you see as issues, the trust issues that could happen around AI-based systems in general? And when I say AI, I mean both AI and generative AI.
Yeah, I think, AI, like all technology, is dual-use technology, right? So, recently we had Oppenheimer, the movie, right? And, he regrets inventing, or at least playing a part in the invention of the atomic bomb, right? That's sort of this stark example of like, it's going to end the world. But we are also, we're at a point with generative AI in particular where the dual-use nature of tech is much more obvious. For us, the question around trust is we are trying to create, put content in front of you. So it could be an image, it could be a headline, it could be just the computer, or go to your favorite website. It might say hello, personalized to you, knowing what you've been doing on that site or the data that the AI has accumulated, right? So it begs the question of how does this AI know so much about me? That's one side. But that's true for all tech companies today because they all have a lot of data that they've accumulated. The step function change is now the AI is generating content in, pretty much in real time for you. Now that has questions around, there could be bias introduced. And then if I again think about the political events around us, next year's election in the US is going to be an amazing test bed for deepfakes, right? And we are creating, and it'd be great to see Nikhil talk about food, but we are essentially creating visual content. There was a art competition last year where somebody who was using this tool called Midjourney won the art competition. And Midjourney is a generative AI tool. And if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know that it was created by an AI tool. So this person used something like 685 prompts. So people use ChatGPT, know what a prompt is. You're actually querying the AI. So he used 685 prompts to get the final product, right? Now the question is it his? Did he create it? Did this AI company create it? Or what about all the artists that contributed to the AI model, right? So we're at the cusp, actually we're in it. The US copyright law, basically the court said you cannot own the copyright for this. Just like somebody tried to create photography from a monkey, and because the monkey clicked the camera, they're like, oh, the monkey owns the copyright. Well, court said you cannot. Monkey doesn't have copyright rights. So similarly, machines don't have copyrights. So we are now in that stage of what we are seeing in front of us, we don't know what to trust. And those of you who are paying attention to Google events, your next pixel is going to take pictures. What you took is going to be different from what you see on your camera, right? Without using any filters, it's doing all on your behalf. So I think we are in that stage where when I go talk about the content that we are creating, people ask us, okay, am I going to be sued because I'm going to put this content on my website? Who is liable? But if it's an artist, we can say, okay, artist owns it. We're actually going past the human, and the machine is going to put the content directly in front of the user. And then all kinds of policy issues come up. And so that's sort of like the trust angle that we are exploring. I don't have great answers. We're in the stage, we're an early stage startup where a lot of companies will take risks with us. And we also hope that over our journey here, there will be some clarity with things like copyright law and trust, what you're seeing in front of you. Nikhil?
Yeah, I'll take a slightly different view to this and not jump into trust and safety and rather go into, is AI actually a threat for humans? One way to think about that is if you look at something like ChatGPT today, it can do a variety of things. You could almost argue that it can do a lot of things. I mean, I can say that it can do a lot of things better than I do, but the competition is not between the human and the AI. It is between the AI and the human that is powered by the AI. And technologically, we are like very, 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 very extremely far away from reaching a point where AI is more powerful than AI with a human in the loop. So far to that point, I feel like AI is more of a tool that can enable creators or anybody with IP either create that better or distribute it better or even just get ideas to what to create better. And with food, we are seeing this, we've been seeing this even before generative AI, where we were using like traditional AI techniques to teach robots how to cook food. And the idea was that creates more opportunity. It doesn't when the cost of doing things fall down, the demand doesn't stay the same. The demand goes up much more than how much the cost function goes down. So I believe that AI is more of a tool that artists, and I'm sure Madhu will agree on this as well. AI is more of a tool for us to accelerate whatever was going to happen. But if it was going to happen in 100 years, it's more likely going to happen in the next 3, 4, 5 years. That is the only difference. I mean, like in food, I can say that when we had started, we had no idea that generative AI was going to be so big so soon. And when, like, up until a year ago, we had a few hundred recipes that we've taught robots how to cook, and boom, over just the last 1 year, we were just able to get chefs and AIs to work together to bring up another 7.5 million recipes up to today. And what that means for us as consumers and what it means for artists is that we are discovering things that we would have otherwise taken another 100, 200 years to discover. That's happening today. And what it also allows is easy distribution. So with AI-powered distribution now, I mean, it's already there to music to an extent that anybody can listen to anything from anywhere else in the world, but that's not really true for all the art forms that we consume on a daily basis. And in our case, food is like one of the only things that we do on a daily basis. I mean, we can't survive without food. And we think that what all of this would mean is everybody will have access to a personalized nutritionist, a personalized chef. All of those functions that are now gated by actual people doing it will be replaced by machines doing it for them. And the people who were doing it earlier, or the artists who are powered by AI, will have a much bigger opportunity than the artists of today. So that's my take on this.
I'll give like two perspectives on this question. One of them is the technical part about the trust issue. There are systems that allow you to not take your data out, even with generative AI. You know, if you pay and if you have the right kind of license, the platform will not use your data to train the model. So you know, that trust issue can be handled if you are using the platforms in the right way, but most people are not using it in the right way right now. So people are putting their codes, their customer data on ChatGPT, and you know, that data is becoming public. So there are ways to overcome the trust issue, but you know, like, who is the owner part? And what is the tool and what is the art is actually a very interesting question. So I'm a computer engineer, okay, and I'm a mom. So as a computer engineer, I can tell you that data science is not just science, actually. Data science is actually an art. And you might say, you know what, why is data science art? Because there are things I can do in a model that an average person could not do. Why? Because I have seen those models for the last 30 years, and I know where they fail and where they will work better in the future. So that's my part of art. And sometimes, you know, my art can come out as a mom. You know, when I make a cookie, I make that cookie in a particular way for my husband or for my children or for myself. And that's that personalized cookie only for that person that they could not buy from any other store. So what is art is a very blurred notion, in my opinion. So there is always this automation part, and then what makes us human part, like what is left out as humans for us part as well. I happen to be the mother of an artist. I mean, I told her, no, I passed you only engineering genes. How are you going to become an artist? And she said, I'll become an artist, no matter what. And she became an artist. And we were having a discussion on the tools. And she told me that there is a process in her head. And you guys, most of you, like, know art better than I do. She told me that in her head, she has tons of ideas. And then the process of putting that idea on, you know, she uses like lots of computer programs to create her art. And she said, in that process, like of putting what is in her head into a product, there are so many steps. And she doesn't want to fast forward those steps, because while she does it, she learns. She becomes a better artist. You know, doctors are the same way. They treat us, and, you know, I'm originally from Turkey, and I'm sure it's the same for India. Like, you know, the Indian or Turkish doctors see thousands of patients, and they are much better doctors than any other doctor, because they have grown up as humans, because they have seen those different use cases, and they have created their solution, which is unique to them. So does AI actually make us not better artists or not better people if we fast forward some of the stuff? So where should we fast forward and where should we not is an open question, actually. So, and what is better as an artist, right? So you know, there is the artist who uses AI and the artist who doesn't use AI. But maybe just like, you know, some of the, like, there are caretta, what is the word? Like, there are caretta turtles. So they actually, you know, when it is when they see the city lights, they think that the city lights are the moon, and they try to go towards the city lights, and they are supposed to go towards the moon to the sea. And people actually, the volunteers took the caretta turtles and they put them into the sea. This is from World Wildlife Fund story, actually. And the turtles died because that process of struggling in the sand made them turtles. So while we are struggling as artists, we are learning. So are we actually bypassing that opportunity to become better humans, better artists, when we use AI in a certain way? I don't have the answer for that. But in the Q&A, I want to hear your thoughts on that. So how do we still become good artists, better artists, and how do we use AI? And where do we not use AI? I mean, like, have you guys read Dune? So you know, I don't think we'll go there, but, you know, like, should we not use AI in some places, or should we? So obviously, there is the automation part. Everybody should have access to certain kind of art, certain kind of food, certain kind of experience. But where do we draw the line is a big question. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, like, you know, we've crossed the Rubicon here. So, you know, and it's going to be hard for governments to, you know, stop this in some meaningful way that doesn't advantage big tech, because only they can follow, or at least comply with regulations. So where I see is that, you know, my wife is sitting in front here, and I'm far from being an artist of any kind. You know, my high school biology teacher said that you cannot draw a heart other than it looks like an actual love sign. So please go into, you know, engineering. So I was like, and I was not going to go into medicine, right? Because I couldn't draw a heart. But I can actually create, I have ideas. It's just that I cannot express with a, paper and a pen, or like canvas and paints and brushes. And I am thrilled when people can do that, right? And you're in awe. But then I can go to Midjourney and say, I'm imagining this, and then it creates something. Now, clearly my art is not going to sell for anything, right? I'd have to give people money to buy that. But it gave me an opportunity to be an artist. So I think what we are seeing is this sort of democratization of art or creating or conceiving idea. What was an idea? Actually, I can produce it, right? But we also kind of go back, and this is sort of like almost like a history lesson, right? So when photography came, we had the same questions. People thought that the photo was somehow sucking the soul of the person and capturing it inside the camera and whatever was being printed. I think we're in the same stage here, right? So like are we creating art? Are we artists? I'm like, I don't care if it looks good. And I spend an hour toiling over the prompts to get it to something. I feel proud of it. It may not have any market value, but it's great we can do that, right? So I think that's sort of like, it's a very nuanced kind of take. Almost like think of like a bell curve. I think the best artists or the truly expressive artists are still going to command, that's what museums are going to be putting 100 years from now. My stuff will go down the tubes of whatever, my phone can keep here, right? So, but then it gave me satisfaction creating that art, right? So everybody can be an artist, but, only the best artists are going to, truly, their work is going to be stored for posterity.
Interesting. Sir, we kind of digress quite a bit on this route. What was the original question again? Was it...
Where is the line between like what the AI is creating and what you're creating?
Oh, yeah. There's a larger trend there, which is the democratization of intelligence itself, wherein yesterday or before AI, you needed a lot of humans to work together to get to some outcome. Today, a bunch of what those humans were doing earlier are like codified using AI. And somebody who did not have the means, somebody who did not have the know-how of how to manage all these functions together is also able to produce output. So for example, you now don't need to know anything about writing code to make a software or to make a website. Why is that the case? Because AI has learned how to make software and you just need to tell it like how you would tell a designer. Now, does it make it as good as the best designer? Also no. Now, but is there value in between where it's not as good as a designer, but it's like still functionally useful? I think that's where most of the AI is going. I mean, true self-expression, like there is something innately human that everybody connects to. The best artists, the best musicians, the best chefs, they will use, like I said, will use AI as a tool. But there is also going to be this whole space where everybody or anybody can build anything that they want. So I almost look at it like there was earlier, if you had to have leverage, you needed to have capital, or you need to actually do labor to get paid. Then we went from there to, okay, if you have capital, you can use that capital to get more capital. Then now from there it went to a point where like you started off with the creator economy, where you just need to have ideas and IP. And now I think we're going closer and closer to what I call like a narrator economy, where if you know what needs to be built, then it will be built for cheap. Today, some things cost more than others to build, but given enough time, I feel like it'll slowly converge to a point where anybody can build anything, and then everything becomes expressive. So today, a lot of the things that we see around us are just there for the function, or just there to solve any given point, a problem that's not, I mean, who is thinking about who your electricity provider is? I mean, like you can get it from wherever you can. You don't have to. There is no self-expression in utilities. So all of that has gone away. Earlier, you had to go build your own source of power as society. So we've progressed as society quite a bit in terms of what we can do and what individuals in the society are able to do. I think that's just keeping on accelerating, and now we're moving closer and closer to a point where anybody can build anything. So who is competing with what is kind of still uncertain, because you still don't know what people will end up making and why they will be useful for. Today, all the hype that we're seeing is, okay, you can do this, you can do this other thing, but not a lot of that has crept into products that we do on a daily basis, except for the products that big tech companies have been building. So, and to answer that question, I think I almost think there is no line to that degree wherein if anybody can express it is a good thing and it's not a bad thing. It's just that all the skills that people acquire over time get lesser and lesser. So the hard skills that you acquire over time get lesser and lesser valuable. I feel like half of the engineering stuff I learned in college is now like completely useless because like AI can do it better than like I don't need to reinvent the wheel on things. So it's basically not allowing you to reinvent the wheel on a lot of things that need to come together for you to create anything, like be it art, be it software, be it like, data science products. So that's my take on this.
This is the last topic, and then questions. Yes. So I look forward to hearing your questions, and maybe there is this like automation, democratization, like why should I not have access to a Michelin star food, if I don't live close to one? That's a question. But there is also the question of, why do we, I mean, again, I don't know the answer for this question either, but I'm going to ask anyhow, okay? And I didn't tell you about this, so I just thought of it now. So, there is a question of like, are we replacing artists with AI? But I want to give it a different spin. So you said that like art is for your satisfaction, right? So, I mean, is art for our satisfaction? Was it for that? Maybe it wasn't actually. So artists actually were people who changed our world because they didn't give it a damn about, what we thought of them, what the majority of people thought of them. So that's why they could actually stand against what was happening in the world, and they gave us a different perspective. So the question, could AI replace an artist? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. And then there is a very technical thing about AI, like how AI works. I want to just like talk a little bit, just a tiny bit about it. There is something called optimization, okay? So AI models optimize a function. I mean, a mathematical thing written based on data, based on the model, and they just optimize that, okay? So they don't have a lot of things that we human have. And we are trying to append AI models with those qualities. Like we are trying to make them unbiased, for example. I mean, like we are a room full of, like most of us are women here. And if the AI is being generated by engineers who are mostly males, do you think that they are going to be like, honoring what we think is right? I don't think so. Not because they don't want to, because they can't, because they don't feel the way we do. So there is a question of, can AI replace artists? And I want to, especially mention this optimization part. Please keep in mind, like, what does an artist try to do? Is it just to make money so that the masses have access to something that they will pay to them? Or is it something else? I mean, like, was art for enjoyment only from the beginning? Or was it to change the world? So can AI replace artists? And it's a very difficult question, I know.
Actually, I think the answer is very simple for me, which is no. AI does not replace an artist. If anything, it's a tool. It's a tool like all the other tools that artists have had. It's what is happening, and as Nikhil said, we're now having access to those tools. It's easier, it's cheaper, it's going to be on your phone. So those are the things that are going to make a good artist is going to be a great artist, and somebody who's can draw, if their life depended on it, can also be an artist, right? So I think artists are not going to be replaced, they're just going to get new tools.
I agree with Madhu on this. Although I'll ask another question to Madhu on this, which is, artists aren't replaceable, I agree with that, but are a majority of the artists today replaceable if they don't use AI tools? I mean, otherwise, I completely agree with your thing, but I think while we are stirring up the pot, maybe we can stir it up a little bit more.
So I was debating this with a friend of mine, and not to kind of demean this line of work, if you're an artist and your art is going into a Hallmark greeting card, right? That's your art. There are a lot of people who do that. It's actually valuable. But that kind of art over time will just lose value. Because AI can do as good a job, if not better. Whereas, can it replace a Dali? Probably not. So.
Yeah.
And Dali, Picasso, I mean, they actually changed, right? What was art before them, like they changed the way we looked at art. So, I mean, obviously it's a very deep topic, and I want to hear your questions. And we can shout the questions back. Okay, so I'll repeat I'll try to repeat what you said. So it's because he can't hear it. But this wasn't a question, really. It's really a comment that AI is not just a tool. We are all changing AI by the questions we are asking and by the feedback we are giving. And nobody knows where this will go. There are a lot of security questions, for example. So like, the systems that protect your credit cards, your bank accounts, they are like being patched to be able to overcome the challenges, and they are not ready. Yeah, yes. So I'll try to, again, there are questions and statements as well. Well, maybe I'll give you the mic because I'm trying to summarize, but I can't. Okay, yeah, okay.
It's a great observation, right? So there's data has been created, and then we're just ingesting it, right? And the context of that data is lost. We're trying to capture as much as possible, but a lot of the context is lost. A great example recently, and people have been talking about, is much of when you ask AIs to produce human photos, all of the people are smiling. They are inherently, the pictures that they produce have like this smile on their faces. And the issue is that the AI has been trained on a very Western American way of expressing. We're always saying, say cheese, so we're all smiling. You look at like pictures from Asia and other parts of the world, people don't smile at pictures. So it feels odd, right? So there's that type of bias because the models don't have all of the data. We're projecting from one cultural context to another cultural context because the tools are available, right? This is a very hard area. No, so she's an AI researcher, and I'm sure Nikhil can talk about food. What we see happen even in like today's, forget generative AI, just AI in general, is there's a lot of, you need to build a feedback mechanism. Until the feedback comes into the thing, and that feedback, given the scale, right? If you look at OpenAI, it's went in through September 2022, all of known knowledge has been indexed by OpenAI, right? So that means, how are we going to get all of this new stuff, right? It's going to be but we have to be intentional about incorporating it. And I think you said all of the big companies are all looking at these things.
Just, this is a topic that I'm especially interested, the bias in data. Believe it or not, the insurance companies, financial services companies, by regulations, they cannot create systems that are biased against women, against gender or race or etc., the origin, etc. So they cannot really have systems that behave differently to you because of those. So they already have a mechanism, but that mechanism works very slowly. As you said, the feedback comes in after months. So months and months of bias can be happening, and then it's not going to be seen until the person expresses what's happening to them, and then that is taken back to the model. So that loop, the adaptivity of AI, is a concern. And I'm really proud that I am a woman who founded an AI company, and our company has been cited in 30 Gartner reports. And we are an adaptive and responsible AI company. Responsible means our AI products, solutions, are created by not just data scientists, but people who will be using those products. So the builders have to be users as well. So there has to be a diversity of people who are looking at the outcomes of the models, so that if AI models are biased, we can all see it. And believe it or not, sisters, all these systems have been biased against us for centuries, right? But we didn't know it. With AI, we know it. With AI, we can tell, female, don't give credit, male, give credit. I see it in the data. So if I see it in the data, I know exactly where it is biased, and I can correct it. So suddenly, being able to quantify and exactly pinpoint that bias becomes actually an opportunity. So that's that part. But how are we going to change the frontiers? That's a completely different way. So just discretizing. Yeah.
30 years from now, 50 years from now, what would art look like based on what you know on the ground?
You cannot. No, you cannot. Because with stock market, for example, you can only predict a couple of milliseconds later. So there is a lot of uncertainty about the, yeah. Yes.
Do you want me to bring the thing to you?
Yes.
I think she wants to.
Yes.
Okay, sure. I think that what you all have been saying, it's really focused on AI as a better and better tool, and certainly for art, we've had, tools. People had to make their own paint before. Now we just have acrylic paints and we just get it in a tube. So next we get AI. I'm just wondering whether we can have some discussion about what is art anyway, and what point are we going to say that AI is producing art? Because if you say art is, we would say, a human's expression of some ideas or some emotion, something that's deep inside us. How is that going to be for AI? Or is AI always going to be the handmaiden of a person?
It would be great to have more. You guys are artists, so I have opinions. So please go ahead.
Someone has an opinion response to that? Yeah.
So, even if you just take music as example, right? So you had mentioned, Madhu, that now that you won't ever be able to draw anything, but now you probably can, like with the help of AI. So with this democratization of art and even music in that example, wouldn't it be a possibility, like there would be so much music out there that everyone would just generally like, and it would be borderline acceptable, but that would really curb on the real artist, the one musician that want to go different, or the one artist, the one painter that want to paint something very, very different. But then now everything is just borderline okay-ish. So so for the real true artists, it could be a downer over there, right?
Being a stage manager. So, I'm an artist myself, and I use chainsaw to make big, large logs of woods. And sometimes I make the wrong cut, but they turn out so beautiful because that's the human error. And while you're saying that the artist without the AI will fall behind, I feel it's going to be the opposite. the artists who are going to make with hands will be so much more expensive and coveted. And we saw that in our lifestyle, in our lifetime. Our parents' generation did not like handmade. They loved everything machine-made. And then when we grew up, we loved the hand-sewn things. We loved that human touch that we brought. And I feel instead of competing with AI or artists with AI, or it's just going to be another category on the side. Just like how Andy Warhol's painting is along as a portrait. And funnily, portraits went down with the advent of photography, but it came back again. And with a gusto now, because now we see that expression of a society through it, of different cultures through it, that we bring that individuality out that we talked as well. So I feel instead of a competition, it's going to be just another beautiful, parallel category. As photography has become part of the art world now.
Well said.
So, in terms of stirring the pot, I wanted to build on the implicit bias comment. And I'm aware that this is a South Asian festival happening in America, so there's resonances of colonialism in multiple ways. So my question is, when I hear you, or a preamble to my question, very short preamble, is when I hear you say, Nikhil, like, oh, anybody will be able to access recipes, food, and this is not about you per se, it's the implicit mindset from anywhere in the world. One of the questions that comes to my mind is, why are we entitled to? Why is everyone in the world entitled to each other's cuisine?
My question is sort of a little bit off of what's being discussed here, but I'll still throw it in the mix. And just wanted to hear your thoughts. I mean, I know we're in the Bay Area, and I was surprised only 2 hands went up when you asked who considers AI to be a threat. But I work in international development for an agency called the World Bank. Some of you might have heard of it. So my question is, what are your thoughts about AI? To me, it sounds like a very niche, educated, elitist sort of development. Of course, riding on very brilliant brains, and now it's become more accessible and all of that. So my question is, how do you see this translate to the whole space of what we call a digital divide? A village in Uganda where the person now has a cell phone, never did before, or, so how do you see that ruling out, other than the usual stuff of AI being used in medicine and all other ways, shapes, and forms, but its intersection with digital divide?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So to answer the question of why is everyone entitled to access of anything from anywhere in the world, it just means, to me it means that the more access you have, the better your problems will get solved. For example, if it's music, if you only have access to 10 songs from across the world as compared to 10 million songs from across the world, what you're creating is not diversity. You're creating the opposite of diversity, which is elitism, where only the ones that have distribution. So when distribution is so rare, what ends up happening is consumers don't get the best products, or consumers don't get the best solutions to them. But when access is democratized, people will get access to things that solve their problem better than anything else. So, if you like Indian classical music, and the only thing that you could listen to were 10 Pink Floyd songs, that is not a world that is fun to live in. But if you have access to everything from everywhere else in the world, then there is a potential for that world to be one where everybody's problems get solved well. Now, the flip side to that is, while that's being developed, there is inclusivity, bias, all these problems that come into these models, because on one hand, it's accelerating change, but it's also accelerating change disproportionately for people who are actually using it. So the people that don't use it get left behind. Even with the digital divide example, people who have access to phones today, or people who get access to phones today as compared to 15 years ago, they are already at a disadvantage. So that is something that the entire like AI ecosystem does not have a good answer to, and it's also, again, like a lot of this explosive growth has happened over the last few years. So a lot of the questions here are also at the cutting edge of research that the AI companies themselves are kind of doing. I hope that kind of answers you. So I'll follow up on that as well. So this is also like, again, like the cutting edge of bias research for AI models, because even the inventors of like ChatGPT didn't expect it to blow up as much as it did. Now the thing is, now that everybody has access to it, people who play into the biases have better outcomes than people who don't play into the biases. So it is something that's still like very much a problem. It's not solved. We don't even really have a rigid path to solving it, as far as I believe. But correct. Correct. So again, to what degree is to what degree is uncertain. Hopefully, over the next few years, we'll have ways to quantify this and have a discussion that is rooted in data rather than. I mean, today, like, honestly, even I don't know. I mean, like, maybe it's super duper biased, and like we just don't see it on the surface, and it's at a level that we don't understand today. But it is very likely that it exists not only on the basal levels, but all the way up to like the expressions of the system itself. So, yeah, short answer to that problem, people don't know well enough about it yet.
Yeah, I think just a quick question or comment on the digital divide. I'm actually quite a bit more optimistic with AI in that it's a beast that needs data. So the more data, the better for AI. And that means that, and you know, we're sitting here in Silicon Valley and maybe most of us have iPhones, but you know, the rest of the world like has Android phones, and I see the work that you know, someone like Google's doing in taking these AI technologies onto Android will mean that more people will have access, and that's a good thing. And so, but it doesn't solve for, we're still developing in this little bubble here. Hopefully the AI companies and people like us and others are going to begin to kind of de-bias or bring in more diverse perspectives.
You're almost out of time, but yeah.
I just had a quick question around CloudChef and Shri and everything, right? So let's say, so art is an expression of a person creating it, right? And let's say if you go to Eton or Srijit's food or something, you say, yes, my base is Kerala cuisine, but he has this unique twist to it, right? That is unexpected, and that blows your mind and say, wow, how did that happen? So does he use any of this stuff that you guys have? Meaning, is it more just like copy exactly, I know how this dish works and so I'm going to use it? Or he will say, okay, I want to, you know, experiment this dish with this ingredient, or I want to give this dish some other influence, and what would it be like, you know?
Is it related, or do you want to? No. Okay.
So thanks for the question. Today, the way it works is it is purely a tool for him to scale up, or the chef in this case to scale up. we are at that point where we help with personalization and like ideas that, so if the chef has an idea, we'll help them get to that idea sooner. So we'll have had done all the intellectual labor using AI to help him in achieving that recipe, not in like 15 different trials, but like 3 different trials or 2 different trials. So we kind of accelerate that process a little bit for the chefs today, but majorly the value that we deliver them is in helping them distribute.
So my question is about artist compensation, right? So as we began to update these systems quicker and quicker, it knows much more about the trends that are happening right now. So for example, outside I saw beautiful artwork by I think Pragati Sharma, and I loved it. But if we were to update our AI models in a way that it understands those concepts, I can just come home, describe those artworks, and then print it out myself rather than going and buying from them. Or even in a more general sense, right? We were talking about like really good artists will still survive, but the more mediocre ones or they do artists, those, for example, right now when you want to buy a Hallmark or make a design for a Hallmark card, you go to an artist regardless of how mediocre they are. But with these AI models, you no longer have a need for them, so they do go out of business. So when we're making these models, with these companies, how do you keep that in mind and be more equitable towards them, right? So that this new tool, in a way, while it might be empowering the day-to-day people to be just better expression, have better expressions of themselves, it is taking away from a certain group of people. So how do we keep that in mind with these companies so that we just treat them better, I guess?
I have a related comment and question, which is all of this has this kind of dystopian feel of a few people with power and intent and resources unleashing on mankind the kind of changes, which in the long term may be okay, but in the short term, what we are glossing over is the pain and suffering of people whose lives and livelihoods have been disrupted. Radiology as a discipline right now, if you're somebody who spent like $1 million becoming a radiologist and you find out that your job is literally obviated, so many other things like that. I think the fact that there's a handful of elite people or companies that have set in motion something that is going to, for at least decades, impact the real lives of people who are just kind of strung along for the ride, that's what feels a little dystopian to me.
Actually, I have a radiology example. Actually, our company is helping doctors for prostate cancer biopsy need prediction. If you have a biopsy, 35% of the time, that biopsy is actually a cancerous. So 65% of the time, you are being, a sample is being taken and it is not cancerous. With AI, 65% of the time, the tissue will be cancerous. So we are also, seeing all of those helping humans examples of AI, and bringing all of these services to a lot more people. And we are not here, to solve these problems. We are just 3 people who are entrepreneurs who have solved everything, of course. Yeah. But we are here to really to talk about it and to surface the problems. Your question about, there is a disruption. Software engineers, data scientists, we will need more of them because these systems, they will break, and when they break, they will be able to fix them. And just when farm equipment came, there was a disruption. There is a disruption happening right now. And some people will be suffering, yes. And unfortunately, there is a lot more that optimization of AI. Who owns the AI itself, and who controls it, and who controls it in a seeming, in an obvious way, and in a not so obvious way. These will all be problems, but these have been problems all the time. Yes, yes. I mean, it's not going to be as tangible as Tylenol, right? So you know, but there have been so many untangible things happening in our lives, and we have not been able to point them out. We knew something was not right, like something was happening to us. It was not right, but we couldn't point it out. So hopefully we'll have more visibility. And about the IP rights, I can like talk about it forever. Like, you know, at the end, you know, I have a friend who died. He was a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, and I was asking him, like, Junaid, how do we like defend our patents? And then he said, are you going to have lawyers as good as IBM's lawyers? No, I won't. So whoever has the best lawyer wins with the patents and IP. I mean, I have 13 patents, and that's what I have seen so far. But you know, it's obviously a very interesting thing happening right now. And I'm just very happy to be in a room of people who are not just technologists, but artists and humans as well. And as a woman in technology, I always feel like, you know, one side of me says, you know, be a human, and the other one says, be automated, be efficient. So I'm trying to find a balance between them, and this has been a very interesting experience with, you know, the panelists and as well as the questions. So any last words? All right, okay, thank you so much.